Hey there, Jeff Manchester, Manchester Music. Welcome. In this video, we're going to look at RC-20, Retro Color by XLN Audio. This tool is like 7 years old. I say that with a bit of a, whoa, it's 7 years old. And yet it continues to show up in mix sessions that I get from people. It continues to show up in top 10 lists. In fact, if you watch my 10 plugins I use all the time, this one is in it. And so I thought it would benefit from one of our videos where we deep dive and try to understand what makes a tool so beloved. Before we get too deep into this, I have a Patreon if you want to support me, and I have affiliate links if you want to support the independence of this channel. Buy anything, I get a kickback. And of course, any questions or comments, fill them in as the video goes on. I will read them, I will take a look at them, and then we will have a discussion civilly in the comments down below. So without further ado, this is the tool right here. I have a couple different of loops, some that I think befit the different modules, better than others. So I have a drum sample and a guitar sample. As ever, when I do these videos, I always start by showing you and playing you what we're going to be listening to. Some drums. And some guitar. I wanted to choose a couple of loops that were pretty dry and didn't have too many effects on them so that we could really make use of RC-20. So we're going to start with the top of this plugin. So this is the, initial setting over here. If you click this, you get some presets. You know what presets are. You can connect to the cloud, and share and also download stuff that is made by the XLN RC-20 community. But you also have, more importantly, this magnitude slider, which is a great big wet and dry for the entire plugin, everything that's going on here. And these three tabs give you tutorials and documentation and all that stuff. At the bottom, and this is really important, I think, you have more controls to alter the input gain going into the plugin, the width and output gain, but also an EQ here that lets you customize what specifically at a frequency level you're letting into RC-20 to be manipulated. So you have a couple different frequency shapes here. So now we have everything from, 2,000 cycles and up. Let more in. I could choose another shape, which kind of bumps the low end a little bit, or go for some pretty simple band pass. This is a high pass and this is a low pass. And you also have some tone controls. You have a nice little tilt mode here. Bring it to the left, favors a low frequency, to the right, the high frequencies. And you also have this mode here where if you bring this in, we're going to boost the mids. And if we go to left, we're going to get that smiley kind of stereo curve. Okay. I like to leave things pretty neutral here and have the entire frequency be affected by what I'm doing with the modules from left to right, from noise, wobble, distort, digital space to magnetic. That's just me. But you also have the width control too, and output gain. So if you go too far and you incur some overages, you can always dial things back with this gain parameter here. It's not double click, I think it's option click to return things to default. Wish it was double, but it's not. Let's focus on the meat of this tool, which happen to be these different modules here. Let's start with noise. Now these big potentiometers control essentially the amount of the effect, in this case noise, going over top of the signal. I say over top because you're not messing with the initial sound source. You're not really affecting it. You're just adding a layer of wobble, distortion, digital space, whatever over top. So it's important to know that. The original signal is not getting, affected by this. So let's start with vinyl 1 and bring some noise in. And I'll bring these things down to 0 here and we'll get going. Some nice metering at the top so you can kind of see what's going on. See the waveform change as I bring this from 50 to more. It gets even fuzzier and thicker and more kind of clipped looking. So we can still hear our drums underneath, but we have that layer of vinyl on top. Now we have another tilt style control here to the right. We emphasize the high frequency components of this vinyl one sound. And to the left, the low. Got kind of like pink and brown noise almost, kind of the profile going over top. We have a post fader, or we can keep it off here if we want. We have a nice little follow thing here, which basically you can see the tooltip at the bottom, make the noise level follow the input signal level. So especially with drums, which is why, excuse me, I chose this loop, you get some really good results. So it's almost like a gated effect coming in, right? Like a Phil Collins kind of thing. But instead of reverb, or I guess it was the control room reverb, not really sure, you have the noise from the vinyl. And what's nice is I can now go and change the different sound types, and my controls here stay locked. So if I'm like, let's see what else is going on. Cool. I'll bring this follow down, and now we can check out duck, which is a little bit like the ducking feature you have in some delays and some reverbs, where when the input signal ceases and it's quiet, the effect recovers and blooms and comes back up. And then when the input signal resumes, the tool, in this case, RC-20, acting a little bit like a compressor sidechain input, it's like, I better, get the noise out of the way and let the dry signal be dry. So listen to this as we bring the ducking in, and this DC sounding noise profile just kind of comes up when the coast is clear and things are a little quiet. You can hear at the end when the loop finished, things went up. In fact, if I bring my cycle over here, have a listen. So no audio, comes back up. So you get some pretty cool effects here. And again, we can just toggle, now that we like the ducking that we have, try some other sounds. That pumping effect can be pretty heavy, I think, on your ears and your brain when it's like sucking and pumping all the time. So we'll leave it there with the main controls. The last thing I want to talk about, which is present on all these guys, is flux. And this is adding some non-linearity and chaos. Unfortunately, we don't have a ton of information on what exactly is happening, because the developers have just said that they've customized the flux, randomness, chaos according to each module. So we don't really have a ton of information on like what exactly is being added, but a nice little animation lets you know that it's on animation. A nice little visual here you'll see. So I'll bring that up and play some sound. There's the animation, it's pulsing. So there you go. And you can turn this on and off like this. And like I said, a big wet dry knob up here with the magnitude. Pretty simple. Let's now go over to the WoW and Flutter. And for this, I have a different track. So WoW and Flutter is going to affect time and pitch, essentially, a little bit like WoW and Flutter on records, vinyl records that were stored in suboptimal kind of situations. They bend and warp, and you get some weird artifacts as a result. And we have two different rate controls over here, one for WoW, one for Flutter. See the rate right there. A stereo spreading effect, which if you look at the tooltip says it'll offset the WoW and offsets the WoW phase between left and right channels. And looks like this only applies to WoW, which is why it's on the left over here. And we have a dry wet mix and of course some flux. So let's stop talking and start playing, starting with WoW. I will bring the stereo effect in and out after I settle on my settings here. So I'll bring this wobble up to about midnight on the guitar, and let's see, I think we're all good to go. Everything's been zeroed. Okay, cool. So nice little animation too. This is very like Pixar-y. Let's try the stereo effect. Let's turn this on. It does give it a nice chorus effect. Cool. So let's try some flux with that. All right, now let's try Flutter. And as you can see, I can leave it in the center and get both, but let's try each component kind of individually and then make our moves from there. So let me bring this down, wobble is up still. Okay, cool. Almost like a tremolator almost when you move these parameters. Now, let's bring it halfway in to get both. And I'll bring the wobble kind of in slowly because this might get pretty chaotic. And you can see the combined animation. So we have a squiggly line and it's bending and kind of moving like this because WoW's on. Okay, so now we have a pretty good idea of what noise and wobble do. Let's move on to the distort, which is going to do what you think it's going to do. It's going to be adding distortion, but there's some clever parameters in here that allow you to really tailor where the distortion is going to go, specifically this focus. So I can choose, for example, to only have the distortion apply by moving these little arrows around to the mid-range or to just the low end. On a guitar especially, you know, that the action's in the mids on the guitar. So I can make 500 all the way to, I don't know, let's say 6K or something like that. And there we go. Now I have a very concentrated, selective application of distortion. But before we get too deep, let me undo this. A mix, right? We have a flux as well. Let's bring in one of, looks like 6 different algorithms. So let's say I just want to concentrate that in the area that I mentioned before. Let's say 4,000 and I don't know, let's say 740. So certainly as I bring this dry wet in with distort, you can hear it just getting applied to that area. even further refine it with this mix slider. But of course, we did not come here to be conservative. Let's try some more settings here. That's iron. Heavy. Ooh. Crunchy. Zap. Finally, air pressure. All right, let's move on to digital. Now, digital is all about celebrating the cold sound of digital, and you can choose the amount of reduction, a little bit like WoW and Flutter, in either rate or bit depth, I believe. And you also have another kind of focus meter where you can concentrate the effect of the amount of the reduction depending on where you want to, and you can press cut to completely discard anything that isn't selected here. So it's not just not affecting that stuff, it's not allowing that stuff into the signal. Perhaps a little bit like the cut EQ that we have down here. So let's first start off by just playing maybe in the middle with rate and bits right where they are. And I should also mention that smooth, it lets you, let's see, polish the rough digital edges off for a less harsh sound. So I guess it's just smoothing the creases out of this digital kind of application that you're adding onto the sound. This is one of the best I've heard that does this. All the way to rate. And you can also imagine automating any of these parameters, right, for effect in a specific dramatic moment of a song. All right, let's apply this to a certain area of the spectrum. So with cut disengaged, we hear everything, right? But we're just applying the effects of digital to this space. But when I hit cut, we're just zeroing in and not letting anything but this little affected slice of audio through. Let's smooth it out. So almost like a low pass filter in a way. So for the first time, I think, I didn't notice this even in my own kind of applications of this tool, the flux is very apparent sonically in this digital module, maybe more so than ever, more so than the other ones. That's what we started with. Very, very cool. So the next one here is a space module, which is essentially half kind of a reverb and half a resonator of sorts. Now the decay you can control, so it controls the length of the reverb resonator tail. We have pre-delay, which controls, how soon the reverb effect fires off. You can also choose to focus it on a certain area or band of the frequency spectrum. Not band, but area of the spectrum. There's a stereo enhance effect over here and a flux as well. Let's set it to the longest, and I'm going to get a loop going so we can hear a tail, if any, or a loop going. I'm going to extend my loop so we can hear a tail. Let's experiment and have a listen. A very beautiful resonant decay. The tail is awesome. I'm going to shut up and just let you listen to this. I'm going to bring the flux up and see what happens. So we have almost some wow Flutter chorus effects that are happening, especially when the input source is pregnant. Especially when the input source is present, not pregnant. So this effect, I think, could substitute itself alone as your next reverb, for a given song or something like that. Like, that is one of the things I love about this tool is by using these on-off buttons, you can then just get, I just want to use this and just have this be your special sauce reverb on your mix. It's really, really something, this guy. The value, I think, is very strong with this tool. Let's bring this into focus a little bit by bringing the decay down and just kind of seeing what we get. Here's what we started with. Here's where we ended up. Okay, the final module here in RC-20 is magnetic, which is meant to simulate all the fun ways volume is affected when you put anything through a magnetic tape process. So with wear, this is when you play something too many times. We have another stereo effect here, which choose if wear, it says, and dropouts do the same thing in both left and right channels. Got it. I guess they're going to do something different if we have this deselected. And let's take a look at what Flutter says here. So Flutter, if I pivot over to it, Flutter is a faster artifact usually caused by the capstan pin in the tape mechanism. Let's have a listen to it. This is cool. If you have headphones, this is really cool. So a little bit like the flutter and the wobble module. Now we have both wear and flutter equally. Nothing. Something. Okay, so let's try a couple of presets here, just because we can. I found that the drum break presets actually sound really good on guitar for what it's worth, so let's go through those. So a little bit of noise, distortion, and magnetic. Try the next one. Oh. We jumped. I didn't want that. Oh. There, we have to go down. Okay. Sounds good. Brings out the squeaks. That sounds awesome to me. Before. Show the next one. I mean, that is so different. Sorry, just before. Let's try a couple more on the drums and then call it a day. So let's see. Loudness button. No, I want retro game mono. There it is. It's literally what it says it is. Bring it in. Awesome. Just putting it in a whole other era. And a stereo version. VHS. Nice. Okay, so we've explored this plugin a lot. I would say if I have any kind of criticisms about it, obviously this is a 7-year-old plugin, so it's not the most fair thing for me to be like, I wish this was in here or whatever, because it was made a while ago, hasn't been updated. It'd be cool to play with these modules and have them be rearrangeable. It's a small thing, but it would be nice. I perhaps understand why they have it cascading in this direction. Of course, you can just turn things on and off if you so choose. But that's one thing that I wish was a little bit different. Outside of that, though, for the price of this thing and for its sonic kind of shape-shifting abilities, it's pretty special. And I can see why it would be like an immediate lo-fi maker for a lot of people. Next to a plugin like maybe Vinyl, which has less functionality, it is free. This thing is just packed with value, I think. So that will conclude our deep dive into understanding what makes this thing amazing. As always, I got a Patreon in the links below, affiliate links. I get a kickback if you want to buy something. And thank you so much for joining us, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.